Welcome back. In this video, we are going to implement the subtraction functionality, and therefore we are going to use the split and the substring methods on strings. So this is on one hand a calculator that we're building, but actually what it is, it's a little tutorial teaching you how to work with strings, because you've learned quite a bit about strings already. For example, this contains, which returns a boolean, right? By the way, if you want to know more about any given method, you can hover over it and it will tell you what it will return. So this contains, as we know, returns a boolean. And now we are going to see how we can split a string, because that's what we need to do. So let's say we have 99 problems and we are reducing 1. Then we have 99 minus 1 here, and this should give me 88. But I, of course, haven't implemented the code for the equal sign yet. Well, you see, it just displays a bunch of equals, but that's not what we want. We actually want to then see what is coming before the operator and what is coming after the operator. So we need to split the string that we have at the operator position, and we need to then do the mathematical operations. Okay, and we're going to start with subtraction, and in the next video we're going to add the final missing operations. Therefore, what I'm going to start with is going to be a new method. And the new method / function that I'm going to create is going to be on equal. So this will be executed once we click on the equal button. And as we know with buttons, we need to pass a view so that we know which button was pressed, and we can then use that and so forth. So here, what we need first to check is once we click on the equal button, we need to know if the last value that was entered was in fact numeric, because we don't want to have the situation where we enter 99 minus and then we press the equal sign that it does a calculation, because that wouldn't work. There is nothing to calculate. So we need to make sure that the final statement was in fact a number, or the final entry was numeric. And how do we find that out? A little hint, we have this variable here called last numeric. Okay, so we can check if last numeric is true. And only if that's the case, then we want to load the text view value. So the value that is inside of this text view that we have here, where we see now 99 minus 1. And we can do that by creating a variable. TV value will be our text view input. And because this is a nullable, I need to add the question mark here, text to string. What that will do is it will take the text view input and give us the text and then make a string out of it, because I want TV value to be an actual string and not to be a text, because a text by itself is just a different type of detail. So here get text is a char sequence, and we actually need it to be of type string. All right, so now the thing that we do next can go wrong. So it could crash our application. And in order for it not to crash our application, we can use a try and catch block. So here, the try and catch will look like this. We have the try statement, and then we have the catch statement. And here we need to say which kind of error we could have. And I'm going to use the arithmetic exception. What that will do is it will give us an exception that will be of type arithmetic exception, which just means that it is going to catch things such as dividing by 0 or just calculations that won't work on a mathematical level, on an arithmetic level. Okay, so here what I want to do is I want to print that on the stack trace. So that will just print it onto our logcat if we ever get an error here. Okay, we're going to see a lot more about logcats later on. For now, what's important is this try part here. This is where we want to execute the code, and the code that we want to execute is going to be the actual splitting of values and doing the calculations and stuff. So what I will set up here for is going to be a new variable, and I'm going to call this one split value. And what it will take is our TV value, which is this text view here, and it will split it. So there's the split method, and the split method exists for strings. Okay, so here we now need to go ahead and say what we want to split. You can see that there are different types of parameters that you can pass. You can use an entire regex pattern, so a regular expression pattern. It would go too far for this part of the course, but regular expressions just allow you to filter text very easily. And what we're going to use is going to be this var arg delimiters with the string. So we are delimitering or using the item minus to split our text. So what we will do here is we will split this TV value. So let's say we had this string of 99 minus 1. Then what it will do is it will split it up where the first entry will be 99 and the second entry will be 1. Okay, and it will do that in form of an array. Okay, so how we can actually use it is the following way. I'm going to just create two variables here. I'm going to create one with the name 1, and it will be at position 0, and the second one, which will be 2, which will be split value at position 1. Okay, so as I stated, this 1 here, for example, would then be the 99, and this 2 would be the 1, for example. All right, so that's how we can split a string by using this split method. It exists in the string class, so you can check it out. It takes a char sequence and splits it with this delimiter that we are passing. Okay, and then what we can now do is we can use that to fill our text view input again. So here we can just set the text to be, and as text view input is a nullable, we need to add the question mark here, and we can just go ahead and say 1 and convert that into a double, because 1 now is going to be of type string. Okay, because we are splitting a string which will return two strings. So this is going to be a string entry and this will be a string entry. And then we are using that as a double. We are subtracting 2 as a double. So we need to convert that into a double as well, like so. But this by itself will of course not work, because text requires a char sequence that we assign to it, which means it requires a string kind of format to be assigned to it. So how can we make this into a string? Well, we could of course create a new variable here, result, and we could say it's going to be those two, and then we could just go ahead and use result to string, and that would do the trick. Okay, so that's how we can do it in 2 lines. A shorter way, or a way how we do it in 1 line, would just be to use those and surround them with brackets. So now we have opening bracket, 1 to double, minus 2 to double, closing bracket. And now this entire thing here is treated like a double, so just like a number. And we're converting that into a string by adding the dot after the closing bracket and making a string out of it, which will now make a number into a text kind of format again, which is what this TV input, our text view input, requires in form of its format. All right, so now let's test this. And in order to test it, we need to go over to our equal sign, double click on it, and then it will jump to the button that has the name button equal. And now we can go ahead and actually, instead of using the onDigit method, we use the onEqual method. So this one will now be executed, which means this now turns from gray into yellow, which means it is used. So now we are using this onEqual method, which will check if the last entry was a number, and then if it was, it goes through all of this code. So now this will crash our program if we don't use it correctly. But now let's first of all test if we can subtract something. And we can see 99 minus 1 is 98.0, which is the double representation of 98. Okay, so it's not 98, but it's 98.0, because here we're talking about doubles. If we were to convert them into integers, then we wouldn't see this dot 0. All right, so that is how we get the first part of it running. But now let's say we add a minus and we press the enter key. Well, you see it doesn't break anything because we have the split value 1 just being empty. So this calculation is just saying 1 to double minus nothing, and it just stays where it is. Okay, so now let's see how we can crash this solution. So let's try to take 66 and subtract 99 from it. Now we get this negative value. So now let's go ahead and subtract another 66 from it, and you see our program crashes. So you can still see this other program, which is, well, just another instance of this program that I have open on my other screen. But this basically is still a problem because it just doesn't get it that we have a minus at the beginning and then it's trying to do something that it just cannot do because it splits it at this minus, right? So if the value at the beginning, I cannot enter minuses. So if this value at the beginning is minus something, what it will try to do is it will take the part that is left of the minus, which is nothing, minus the thing that is right of the minus, which could be something. So now basically our program just doesn't know what it should do and it keeps stopping, so it crashes. And now how can we get around it? Well, first of all, we need to add a prefix. So here we're going to create a new variable called prefix, which will be an empty string at that time. And then inside of our try block here, we can check if our TV value starts with a minus. So with the starts with method, and we check, does it start with a minus? So does it start with this prefix minus? And then if that is the case, we can just go ahead and say that the prefix will in fact be a minus. And then we can take the TV value and set it up accordingly, which I will do with TV value dot substring at position 1. So now you might say, holy smokes, what's going on here, Dennis? Well, I'm using the TV value here, the old TV value, and I'm saying use the substring at position 1, which basically just means get rid of the first entry that you have in the string. So if the string TV value was, let's say, minus 99 at the beginning, then after this statement here, it will just be 99, because what we're doing is we create a substring out of our TV value, which starts at index 1 of the string. So that means this minus is index 0 and this is index 1. So it starts at index 1, which means it starts at 99. It just does create the rest of the string. Just to show you this real quick, in Kotlin Playground here, what you can see is I'm creating this var my string, which says hello world, and then I'm using the substring method at position 1, and then print my string. So I overwrite the old string with the substring of the old string, and you see I get hello world without the h, which is just hello world. So if we were to use this example with the 99, and then we run it again, the minus 99, we can see we just get 99 because it just gets rid of this first entry. That's what you can do with this substring. By the way, if we were to use hello world and we say run at entry 5, it will just display world with an empty value before that, because that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it starts at 5, which means it adds this empty space. You can see that here. If you mark it, it has an empty space. So that's what this substring does for us. So now we have this prefix, right? So that's cool and all, but we're never using it. Now let's actually use it. And where would be a good spot to use it? Well, the thing is we need to check if our string contains a minus. So here, TV value contains a minus. And if that's the case, then let's run all of this code here. So let me put that in there. But then on top of that, we need to assign the prefix back to the 1, because what we just did up here is we deleted the minus. And if there was a minus in our first entry, so in the 99 here, if there was a minus 99, at this point it doesn't have the minus, even though it had it before and we just deleted it. So we stored that we deleted it in this prefix variable, and now we can add it back by checking if prefix is not empty. So here is not empty. If that's the case, then just use the old one and add prefix to it. So the new one should be prefix plus 1, because this is a string and prefix is a string. We can just add those together. So if 1 was 99 and the prefix was minus, now 1 will be minus 99, and now our calculation should work flawlessly, even with subtractions. So let's see it. 66 minus 99, and now minus 66, and we can see it works flawlessly, and we can now subtract even with negative numbers. All right, so at this point, we just need to add the missing operations, and that's what we're going to add in the next video. So see you there.